Ing forecasts at dusk, confessions by sunrise. My name is Armin, and I am paid to tell a city what it will forgive tomorrow. I'm the overnight meteorologist for Channel 7 Models Radar, a green screen that pretends to be a map and a camera lens that pretends to be a friend. On paper, I ingest data, update forecast grids, write the scripts the morning anchors will read while blinking awake. In practice, I translate appetite. Commuters want certainty, farmers want mercy, event planners want miracles with a rain date. I carry a thermos that tastes like patience, a pocket anemometer because I hate being lied to by trees, and a little spiral notebook where I write the names of clouds like they are strangers at a party. I live with Tomas. He's a baker who wakes up at hours that feel like a dare. He comes home dusted in flour and yeast and relief, and kisses me like a timer that knows when. We have a rule on an index card taped to the fridge under a magnet shaped like a cumulonimbus. Say it by sunrise. We said it the winter we learned midnight honesty is theater, and noon confessions feel like whether you should have warned each other about yesterday. The Tuesday the models behaved and I didn't, the radar looked smug as a cat. A small coastal low had flirted all evening and then decided to leave us with nothing but a good story. I updated the grids, wrote 2 versions of a script responsible in ratings, and told my phone I was doing fine while my stomach practiced knots. At 02:18, the joint email Tomas and I use for deliveries and accountability buzzed. Thank you for your stay, the beacon. Time 12:083:02. Points 200 added. Sunrise sat up in my chest like a producer and tapped an imaginary watch. I didn't call him. Our second rule is for disasters we can still downgrade. 2 loops around the parking lot before nomming it. The station's lot looks at the river like a question. I walked past news vans that dream in live shots, past the smoking corner where photogs edit their regrets, past the satellite dish that looks like it wants to confess. The night offered the sentence air prefers. You already know. He introduced himself like an answer. Cass Vale, he said, hand extended, smile calibrated. He was the new station manager's pet consultant, flown in to align news value with audience expectations, which is how you say the weather should be better TV. He wore navy well and sincerity as a subscription. He stood beside the chroma key wall while I rehearsed the morning's hits and watched me point at counties that have never heard my name pronounced right. During a lull, he leaned in, voice like a button you push for indulgence. You make storms sound reasonable, he said. I make storms sound like something your shoes can survive, I said. Drink after your show, he asked softly, and I was old enough to know better and exactly their target demo. Tomas texted at 03:07, a photo of 6 perfect baguettes cooling on a rack. An elderly woman cried when she smelled the first bake, he wrote. I may cry when I sit down. Sunrise. I sent a heart and a little cloud with a sun peeking because I'm a ham. The Beacon Bar exists to absolve chosen men for the cost of a hotel room. Cass sat in a booth where the lamps taught cheekbones what apologies looked like. He asked what it feels like to talk about certainty while knowing nothing is. I told him it feels like explaining a promise to someone already holding an umbrella. He touched the back of my hand with 2 fingers, like a field tech testing for live, and asked with his eyes here. I said now, because sometimes you practice for a hurricane with a glass of water. His room smelled like citrus and negotiated privacy. He kissed like a man who has been thanked for restraint and decided to invoice hunger. He pressed me against the window, and the river below pretended not to know my name. He was generous in the places biographies are designed to flatter and selfish, where mouths believe in the present tense more than nouns. I put my hands where agreements live. We left the lamp on because Daylight had been added to the terms in the elevator. After he lay on his back and watched condensation creep down the glass like the slowest possible script. "You'll forgive him," he said, meaning Tomas, meaning scoring bread in the dark and trusting someone else's oven. "I'll speak by sunrise," I said. He smiled like he'd invented policy. Tomas was home when I got in, forearms dusted with flour, hair damp from the steam that turns dough into promise. He poured coffee, handed me a mug with the word now printed on it, and waited. At 05:59 we stood under the cumulonimbus magnet and I told him nouns. Hotel, elevator, mouth, hands, yes. I did not force adjectives to do PR. "Do you love him?" he asked, like a man checking a loaf he refuses to cut too soon. "I love the hour where nobody asked me for certainty," I said. He nodded, took the marker from the magnet, and wrote beneath our rule in Baker's capitals, "No rooms we can't name at this table. If anything breaks, we break it together before dusk." He underlined together twice, then set his hand at my throat with the gentleness of a man who knows heat differently. He waited. I said yes. We left the lamp on because Daylight had RSVP'd. Cass treated boundaries like weather, advisories to be updated. He hovered in the control room with a consultant's humility and a director's knack for being in the eye line. He texted me a photo of the river at dawn with the caption "proof," as if light needed corroboration. He learned the names of 2 producers and used them with the kind of intimacy tips buy. He asked whether my storytelling cadence could be aligned with urgency, and I told him storms don't respect buzzwords. The gossip vertical that eats our industry for brunch posted a grainy beacon elevator still. My shoulder, his mouth, a caption that tried to make cold front clever. Tomas didn't forward it. He printed it and taped it inside the cabinet where we keep spices, then took it down at sunrise to make room for a grocery list. This is how he archives. Nothing heavy where a daily hand reaches. Props have favorite scripts. The beacon called to say housekeeping had found a ring beneath an armchair in the room tied to my loyalty number, thin gold, engraved CA on the inside like arithmetic pretending to be a sacrament. Not mine. The clerk asked whether I'd like to claim it. "Hold for owner," I said, with my TV voice that turns weather into plan. Work tried to rescue me with honest wind. The models diverged like friends after graduation. One insisted a line of storms would train over the interstate at rush hour. I drew boxes on my map like a man deciding where to build regret. A farmer wrote to thank me for saying the word hail like a swear. A school district begged me to be right about dismissal. Cass sent a message. "You are excellent when the room is afraid." I typed back, "I prefer accurate," and let the cursor watch me get over myself. Then a tiny red light blinked where no light should. Our web producer found a puck-shaped device taped under the desk in the green room, cheap, patient, impolite. Its LED pulsed like a private metronome. It had been collecting the soft parts of us. The sigh before a reporter practices empathy, the first draft of an anchor's grief, the moment a guest whispers the truth they intend to perform louder later. The sticker on its battery belonged to a firm our station had hired on Cass's recommendation to enhance audience intimacy. Legal wrote a memo with "regrettable" 4 times and "consent" twice. We printed decals in a font that refuses to flirt. Recording without consent prohibited. External devices by authorization only. I told Tomas at sunrise. He set a loaf on a rack the way you set a good question on a table. "Are we being interesting?" he asked. "Or are we being us?" He asks it like a baker knocks a crust, a test that knows what answer it wants. "Us," I said, and felt the map in my chest change scale. Cass staged a finale only men who believe in seasons think they can get away with. He waited for me by the station's loading dock with the ring between two fingers, C plus a flashing like an alibi, and said, "Say my name." He meant Cass, he meant jurisdiction. "Cass," I said, because facts deserve to be pronounced. Then I added exit, because forecasts are promises and I'd rather be late than wrong. If you came for erotics notarized, my inventory is short and sufficient. There was a wall and a yes and hands where we said hands would be, a mouth that believed in the moment more than the man. The lamp stayed on because daylight had been invited into the contract in the lobby, and we weren't going to embarrass it. It was heat without metaphor and the brief mercy of a head that shut off all the models. If you came for intrigue plated with garnish, a ring with arithmetic inside, a recorder taped under a green room desk, an elevator camera that thinks it works for features, a consultant who confuses narrative with forecast. If you came for redemption, the weather doesn't sell it. We sell probability. The recorder turned into policy that turned into routine. The firm was dismissed by a paragraph that said values like a paper umbrella and still managed to spill. We added a line to the run-of show. Sweep green room before guests. Producers learned to love a checklist that believes in privacy. Anchors taped a sticky note to the desk that says ask first. The ring's other initial turned into a man with cufflinks. Carter, there is always a Carter, arrived with a lawyer whose kindness had been practiced for TV, and retrieved the band like a plot hole he was done accommodating. He nodded at me in the Beacon lobby with the expression two men share when they've agreed not to be the B-roll. I nodded back. Tomas and I practiced boring until it became a craft again. One morning he pressed his palm to my throat with the care you use on a soufflé and asked here. I said now, because consent likes clocks. He laughed into my shoulder like a kettle just clicked off. We ate toast with butter that decided to be abundant. The lamp behaved. Work stayed work. I filled a feed with little white arrows that teach you what wind thinks it knows. A kid drew me a tornado with crayons and I put it in my notebook like a contract. A farmer sent me a photo of a sky so purple it deserved an award. I said probabilistic and meant mercy. Cass drifted out of the station's weather pattern. The beacon stopped calling. The city's appetite rolled over and went back to wanting. Sometimes at 03:00 I stand on the roof and watch the river behave like a forecast I didn't earn. The air tastes like pennies in sleep. The clouds say the sentence they always preferred. You already know. I think of my father licking a finger and holding it up to wine like it could raise a child. I think of the magnet on our fridge and the way paper breathes when you don't laminate it. I think of arithmetic engraved inside a ring and how math flatters the wrong part of our mouths. We added another line to our rule because rules like company. In Tomas's Patient Baker print, if you burn something, do it where I can help find water. We didn't laminate it. The cumulonimbus held. Cass will find another green room to rehearse intimacy in, another elevator camera to practice sincerity for, another ring to engrave with somebody else's arithmetic. I will still carry a thermos, a notebook, and the stubborn habit of being precise only when accuracy has already been respected. For a few hours at a time, I tell a city what it will forgive. For a few hours at a time, I keep my mouth for promises I intend to keep. Then I go home at dawn if the river lets me and stand under a magnet shaped like weather with a man who knows how to make flour remember sunlight. We say the thing. We leave the lamp on or off as needed. And when the models decide to audition for tragedy, I breathe, choose the right verb, and tell the morning gently what kind of day it gets to be.